Attorney Jeffrey Haas co-founded Chicago's PLO, the People's Law Office, which has represented the victims of political persecution, torture, and police misconduct for more than 4 decades. Haas was lead attorney in the decade-long lawsuit lodged by the families and survivors of the December 4, 1969 raid by the Chicago police and FBI that took the lives of Black Panthers Mark Clark and Fred Hampton. Haas's new book, The Assassination of Fred Hampton, How the FBI and Chicago Police Murdered a Black Panther, is a riveting personal account of how the author's life intersected with the movement of the late 1960s and early 70s and with the brief, remarkable life of Fred Hampton, who led the Illinois chapter of the Black Panther Party. Along with telling the story of his own political awakening and tracing the path that led to his involvement with the movement, Haas delivers us a priceless account of Fred Hampton's early life and political evolution, drawn from extensive interviews and personal familiarity with Fred's parents, siblings, extended family, and others. He also encounters brief impressions of Panthers and others he encountered along the way, and attempts to sketch something of the day-to-day work of the Black Panther Party within the political contexts of those times, thus enabling us to understand the indelible impact that organization and Fred's brief life of struggle, intensity, and sacrifice continues to make on so many to this day. By the time of the December 4th, 1969 murders of Clark and Hampton, Haas was deeply involved with the Black Panther Party. He recounts being summoned to the Wood Street police station and to guarded hospital rooms to interview survivors including Akua Njeri, formerly Deborah Johnson, who would later bear Fred Hampton's only child less than 2 weeks later. He details how police invented and the media willingly print and broadcast fantastic stories of an imaginary shootout in the Hampton apartment, but hurriedly abandoned the scene of their own crime, chock full as it was of damning evidence pointing to a cold-blooded act of government-sponsored murder. After the legal team gathered, cataloged, and filmed the evidence, some of which is recounted in the feature film The Murder of Fred Hampton, Chicago Panthers threw the doors of the apartment open to the public. They conducted community leaders and thousands of ordinary citizens on guided tours of the tiny apartment, full of the physical evidence which made nonsense out of police tales of a shootout. Some reporters took the tour as well, and when early newspaper photos of supposed Panther bullet holes turned out to be nail heads, that was enough to turn the tide of local black public opinion in the Panthers' favor. Public opinion was one thing. Exposing the lethal conspiracy and bringing its perpetrators to some measure of justice would be quite another, an epic legal and political battle lasting more than 10 years. Jeff Haas was the lead attorney in that long fight. The ins and outs and setbacks, and eventual partial triumph in that battle, during which successive layers of government perfidy, perjury, and conspiracy were revealed, make up most of the book. It's a story almost nobody else is in a position to tell, and Haas does an excellent job of telling it. He generously credits his co-counsels and the invaluable assistance they received from the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, from the Center for Constitutional Rights, which in our own day has done more than anyone else to represent the nameless, faceless prisoners in the Bush-Obama network of secret prisons around the world, from the National Lawyers Guild, from the ACLU, and many others. At the same time, he also recounts the tactical and strategic differences between the counsels on the best way to pursue the case. But Haas's account is not what you might expect there either from a member of the legal priesthood. Far from being the standard praise hymn to the truth-telling wonderfulness of U.S. jurisprudence, Haas makes it clear that no measure of justice whatsoever would have been achieved in this case were it not for forces exerted by the larger political struggle outside the courtroom. For instance, when Chicago police and prosecutors lied, federal officials backed them up, and the court prohibited further inquiry. When the feds lied, local officials in the court did the same. A succession of judges over years issued bizarrely contradictory and blatantly prejudicial rulings that hamstrung the case of the survivors and their families. The biggest single break in the case, according to Haas, came after the U.S. Senate's Church Committee hearings into COINTELPRO and other secret illegal activities of the CIA, FBI, and other government agencies. In the wake of those hearings, thousands of previously classified documents were made public, including quite a few whose existence had been specifically denied by federal and local authorities when Haas and the plaintiff's team requested them. The Church Committee files also included many references to still other documents, files, and persons, which trial judges, local and federal authorities all agreed did not exist. It was this missing documentation of concealed perjury, conspiracy, shaken loose by the incessant political tumult of the 60s and 70s, not the legal team's poise and expertise, and certainly not the workings of the U.S. legal system that enabled the survivors to recover a modest monetary settlement and their lawyers to prove beyond any doubt the existence of multiple overlapping conspiracies on the part of Chicago police, local prosecutors, and the FBI to carry out and to cover up political murders of U.S. citizens under the COINTELPRO program. That lesson, according to Haas, and this reviewer agrees with him, is that progress comes with unceasing and uncompromising struggle, for which the powers that be often will not offer any legally sanctioned roadmap or means. Haas concludes the book with a relevant political experience of his own. After the U.S. invasion of Iraq, Haas, by then a New Mexico resident, took part in a march on Donald Rumsfeld's estate near Taos, New Mexico. As he stood to make a speech near the gate, Haas says, he felt himself touched by the spirit of Chairman Fred, as we called him, and he knew that he was doing what Fred would have wanted him to do. In a sad and shameful footnote to Chicago observances of the 40th anniversary of the assassination of Fred Hampton, organized by former members and friends of the Illinois chapter of the Black Panther Party, Haas was mocked and derided on stage and verbally harassed afterwards, literally driven from the building, from the lobby of the event where he was signing copies of his book by individuals who represented themselves as followers of Fred Jr., the son of the slain Panther leader. Apparently, this tiny, misguided group imagined themselves the sole authentic inheritors and possessors of the legacy and spirit of the late Fred Hampton. But they could not be more wrong. None of them knew Fred like Haas knew him. None of them knew Fred like we knew him. It's never been a case of descent by blood, as Howard Fast says in the conclusion of his 1951 novel Spartacus. It's a matter of descent through common struggle. Fred Hampton's life and work and spirit are part of the heritage of all who are impatient with injustice, as he was, and who struggle to end the exploitation of woman and man by man. Jeff Haas's book is a worthy contribution to the historical record and to that legacy. This is Bruce Dixon for Black Agenda Report. You can find us at www.blackagendareport.com. I'd buy this book too.